Welcome to this episode of Whiskey and WealthTech. I'm your host, Alex Serman, Managing Director of Wealth and Institutional at First Rates. Today I'm joined by Jay Morison. Jay, thank you for joining us today.
Alex, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And so give us a little bit of background about yourself and your experience in the wealth management industry.
Certainly, happy to. So I've been in the wealth management and asset management business now for 20 years. And I've always gravitated to roles where I can really kind of be that architect to design and build new ventures. And I'm fortunate to have done that about 8 times between organizations like Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch and Guggenheim Partners. And so that has been just a true blessing for me to have those different opportunities, and has allowed me to grow and learn a lot about the wealth management business.
Wow, that's excellent. And so you are based, near the New York area. So we're actually sitting in New York City this morning, and we're having a little bit of whiskey. As you might be able to see, these are plastic cups, a little bit different than our normal glassware. Weren't allowed to get glass in the lobby of the hotel. And so today we're drinking a filibuster rye whiskey. And so it's double casked. So first aged in new oak barrels, finished in French oak barrels, which adds a little bit of interesting dynamic. It is not a New York whiskey, but rye is actually a huge part of the whiskey industry in New York. And so there's a lot of rye that's grown here in New York. And so we thought we would appreciate that with a little bit of rye. So without further ado, let's give this a try.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's delicious.
Delicious.
And so like a lot of ryes, I get a lot of similar notes, things that you get on other ryes that are kind of similar, like eucalyptus, licorice, black pepper. Some of those notes, however, I do get a little bit of different spiciness with the French wood that kind of adds a little bit more maturity, in my opinion, for probably a younger age statement whiskey. But overall, really smooth, really
It's
good.
really good. There's a nice caramel hint to it.
Yeah.
So it goes down really smooth.
That's perfect. And so, Jay, tell us, so as a COO, you had a lot of responsibilities in the wealth management industry. You had a lot of stakeholders that you had to look after.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you had doing that? And so what are some of the ways that you were successful in being able to manage those kind of relationships?
I appreciate that. Yeah. So one of the unique aspects of being in a COO capacity is you're constantly managing a lot of different stakeholders. You're probably, I was closest to the advisor, and I needed to be very mindful to the needs of our different advisors. But I needed to, in order to be successful, I had to balance their needs, and obviously they're principally focused on how do I retain my clients, how do I differentiate and grow my practice, how do I make sure that I have access to capabilities that are most relevant to my clients. But I also need to be very thoughtful about how are we as a business, how are we thinking about our clients' needs, and are we making sure that our advisors and really the firm at large is really focused on what their needs are and what their values and what differentiates a Morgan Stanley or a Merrill Lynch from all the other kind of wealth managers. And in addition to thinking about our clients, obviously you need to think about our shareholders as well. And so having that kind of risk orientation, as well as being thoughtful about our strategies, about making sure we're growing our business in a sustainable and thoughtful way, that really for me kind of set up a triad of like, how are we balancing the needs of our advisors, of our clients, and our shareholders.
Excellent. And so what kind of tools, do you have any technology that kind of helps you really balance that out, or was this all just putting it together?
Yeah, it's a great question. So working at a large wirehouse, I mean, there's no shortage of access to technology. Sometimes it's leading edge technology. I think one classic example at a firm like Morgan Stanley is Next Best Action. I really applaud what Jeff McMillan did in terms of he and his team developing Next Best Action and rolling it out many years ago. And so there was a lot of leading tech that I got to see the development of firsthand. But it's really, just more broadly than that, it's technology. I found was an excellent tool to deepen that advisor-client relationship. But always you need to think about. I thought about it in the context of how can this particular technology or this capability augment and support rather than displace or intermediate between the client and advisor. And so again, there's always a balance in terms of thinking about what are the needs, but doing it in a way where it's complementary to the client relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you make what you do better and not replace you with a mindless robot?
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned you've been through multiple different firms and done several ventures type activities over the course of your career. And so what are some of the more unique ventures that you've seen? What's been successful? What's not? And that's a huge thing that's been going on over the last couple of years of just tons of startups, tons of these venture capital firms really investing in new startup technologies. So like, what have you seen that's really excited you there?
Great question. One of my favorite opportunities that I got involved in a number of years ago at Merrill Lynch, what we found, and ironically enough, the timing of this was actually during the credit crisis. So back in 2008, when there was just an incredible amount of volatility and uncertainty, we actually found a counter trend where some of our clients were approaching their advisor and their clients said, "Hey, I have these values. They're some of those values are religious values. Some of them are more environmental values. But I want to reflect these values within my planning, within my investments, within my charitable giving. Can you help me in this process?" And so certainly having access to some technology like negative screening or positive screening, and thinking about from an investment allocation standpoint, a lot of great technology we were able to source. But more than that, again, at the end of the day, it was really enabling conversations that allowed our advisors to engage their client on their values, and then based on those conversations, be very thoughtful about, all right, what is the plan that's going to help really create a personalized approach to this client. And so that project in particular, and that opportunity to kind of stand up a whole servicing strategy around our values-oriented clients, that was particularly meaningful for me.
Okay, excellent. And so, you've talked about, what's meaningful for you is making sure that client relationship is very strong. Those clients feel supported. And you've not just worked in the U.S., but you've worked internationally as well on this. And so what are some of the trends or the differences that you've seen being able to support those client relationships globally?
Yeah, great question. And so that's right. Over the past 7 years, I served as the COO to Morgan Stanley's international wealth management business. And in that business, our advisors serve clients really globally. We had a strong presence in Latin America. We also serve clients in Asia and Europe. And what was fascinating about that opportunity and to have that kind of global view was there were a number of similarities between our clients, non-US versus US. There were some critical differences as well. And so one of the surprising differences was high net worth clients outside the US. They're just more technology centric than a lot of US high net worth clients. And so one of the trends that I saw is that as we were entering into COVID, our clients and their advisors, they felt actually very well equipped to maintain that relationship. And we saw, because of the strength of that relationship, that was a growth period for us. We saw a lot of wallet, additional access to client wallet, and a lot of consolidation that happened in that period because we had, I think, thoughtfully prepared for a time. We didn't know that it was going to happen in March of 2020, but through various technologies, whether it was Zoom or WhatsApp or just being much more kind of closer to the clients, it was fortuitous, but I think we were prepared to leverage that opportunity and really use that as an opportunity to strengthen the relationship.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know that a lot of firms really struggled during that period because they put a lot of emphasis on their client relationships, but they weren't able to replicate that kind of experience,
right?
Online, remotely, as they were of coming and sitting down, having those kind of conversations. And so that's really interesting that you're able to really, kind of capitalize on that and grow in that period when a lot of firms weren't doing that. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, personally, you're very passionate on mentoring, younger people in the industry, leadership development. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there and kind of what led you to that as a passion.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. A lot of so I think earlier in my career, when I first started on Wall Street, I had this kind of black and white view in terms of, all right, 9 to 5, or much later than 5 o'clock is kind of where I work, and then after work, that's when my opportunity is to serve the community. But I really had this kind of awakening moment where I said, oh, well, my community can be actually in the workplace. And so this can be actually a very fertile environment for me to serve. And one of the ways I can serve is just frankly giving back as a mentor. And so I've been fortunate to have had a number of great mentors, and those mentors can be formally assigned or informally. Those relationships can grow, but I've also had the opportunity to mentor others. And that could be in the context of just helping my mentees kind of identify and understand the bridge between their current role and opportunities where they could leverage their skill set or leverage their interests, or it could just be kind of just working through specific work situations, like sometimes kind of knowing how to kind of manage up, or be even more thoughtful about how to show up in a meeting or in a large conference room with more senior folks. And so again, creating space where colleagues feel comfortable and sometimes even vulnerable to have those conversations have been a real blessing for me, for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, because that's needed in the industry, and being able to your point, be able to get into those meetings as a younger person in the industry, being able to represent yourself well, speak up, be vulnerable, but be valuable in those meetings is huge. And that's great that you take that on to help mentor people, guide them, help them do it the right way, and really show them the ropes on that, because there's many people that don't do that and don't get that kind of mentorship. So that's incredible. And that's definitely something at First Rate we're really passionate about as well, is being able to bring your entire self to work. So, we don't expect you to, walk in the door and be one person. The second you leave, be somebody else, but really be able to bring all of you to work and have that really be your entire person. So that's incredible that you've got that kind of thing going.
Yeah. And I can imagine that at a First Rate, and certainly I've seen this firsthand, is that, when you feel comfortable to just be yourself, we all have very unique kind of interests and passions. And so when you find other people in the workplace that have a similar interest, whether it's whiskey or wealth tech or whatnot, like there creates a strong bond, and you will keep those bonds throughout your career. And so having those affinities and feeling comfortable to kind of speak up and kind of express who you are, I think it creates a tighter community inside of a larger organization.
Absolutely. So my final question is kind of the one that I always end with, but what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the wealth management industry that you feel are really going to be taking off in the next couple of years, couple months? And is there anything else that you feel that our audience should know before we let you go back to your normal life?
For sure. Look, I am incredibly encouraged by the time that we're living in right now. I mean, certainly to work in the wealth tech space and to see some of the innovations happening, of course, with AI, but with other aspects as well, is really, really encouraging for the industry. And so, again, going back to that kind of client, advisor, shareholder kind of triad that I talked about, oftentimes advisors, when they talk about their desire to grow their book of business or just to maintain their book of business, the constraint that they're always trying to work through is the operational efficiency of managing both their practice and their business, and obviously their team. And so I'm really encouraged by some of the technologies that I'm seeing that, yes, are AI enabled, but are helping advisors to kind of automate and personalize a lot of the repetitive tasks. And so companies like Advisor AI or Jump, or in a slightly different spheres, some of the technologies that like a Tiffin is doing to help advisors kind of identify prospective clients that are meeting their ideal client type and that are fully aligned to their service practice and their goals. I'm incredibly encouraged by those technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And then just more broadly than that, it's fantastic to see the partnership that First Rate has with Pam Citron and the Founders Arena
Mm-hmm.
and other partners that are helping to really catalyze the accelerator, Founders Arena, of course. And what's particularly compelling to me, having met so many of the founders that are participating or have participated, they are experienced operators. They know, they have an acute sense of the challenges and the opportunities for advisors and for clients, and the opportunities that those can create for shareholders. And so, I've been really impressed by the wealth tech that they have developed and that they're scaling into many organizations. So kudos to First Rate and Pam and all of the collaborators that are helping to make the Founders Arena possible. So look, I'm incredibly encouraged by what's happening at First Rate and outside the industry.
Absolutely appreciate that for sure. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I think the things that are happening, what people are doing, what they're being passionate about is really propelling the industry forward in a very positive way. And so I'm very encouraged to see what people are doing, what kind of technology and kind of personalities are coming out and really helping drive things forward. And so to your point, you've got a lot of these experienced operators in the Founders Arena. We've got a lot of people out there doing other things outside of the Founders Arena, but it's just a forum where people can really come together and grow and help make this industry that we work in and that we appreciate a much better place. And so I appreciate your time today, Jay, and your insight. This was
Thanks so much, Alex.
Very helpful. And hopefully next time we're drinking whiskey, it's not out of plastic cups. But
plastic cups or not, I appreciate the opportunity. So I'll always drink whiskey with you guys.
Well, cheers to that. Thanks,
Cheers,
Jay.
man. Thanks again.